Okay. Well,
Okay.
ready? Okay. Yep.
Yeah. We are ready.
Okay. So, good afternoon, and welcome to all of you that are joining us for our Bravo Leadership Conversation with Blanca Treviño, President and CEO of Softtek. This year, we have adapted our Council of the Americas Symposium and Bravo Business Awards to a new virtual reality. Today's conversation is part of a 6-month platform that will focus on the theme of leadership and transformation in the times of crisis. I want to thank Maria and our amazing Miami team for organizing this and for finding this innovative solution for our Bravo Awards and series this year. Now, Blanca does not need COVID to be considered a leader. is the president and CEO of Softtek. She's a founder of Softtek, a global company dedicated to helping organizations evolve through digital technology. Under her leadership, Softtek has become the top IT services company in and from Latin America. And I only need to highlight that there are so few women in tech that to have Blanca not only be president and CEO, but president and CEO of a tech company is really something extraordinary. And she is quite a role model. Blanca serves as vice president as well of the Mexican Business Council, is a member of MIT's School of Engineering Advisory Council, and a board member of Walmart Mexico, the Americas Society and Council of the Americas, the Ibo American Council for Productivity and Competitiveness, Grupo Lala, the Mexican Stock Exchange, as well as universities, including Tec de Monterrey. And I will also note that they had to rename the Hombre de Negocios Business Association in New York to make it just the Business Association, because Blanca was the first, I think, female member.
It was.
Before we begin, I would like to thank our sponsors, Bank of America, the AES Corporation, MasterCard, SAP, Softtek, and our supporting partner, Chubb Latin America. Also our partners, the Inter-American Development Bank and the Financial Times. Now, we have muted everyone's audio except the speaker, and we ask you to keep it on mute to minimize any background noise, as this is also a live webcast. If you have a question or a comment, please write or submit your questions via WebEx chat to Ariana Molina, and we will call on you. Then please remember to unmute. So with that, Blanca, let's start our conversation. This is so exciting. Let's start just talking about technology, Softtek. And technology has really played a key role helping societies and businesses navigate COVID-19 pandemic. What's your vision been? How have you evolved? How have you adjusted to this? And what about your clients?
Yes. First of all, let me thank you. It is a great opportunity. You know that I always enjoy the summit that you have in Miami, but this is also great to be able to have this conversation and to probably hear to any questions that the audience might have. So thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, and it's certainly exciting. And let me start with technology. And I like to say that I'm in a very privileged industry, because technology is amazing. I mean, when you're part of that industry, there are so many challenges always that you have to feel privileged. But much more in this time, technology, like you just said, has played a major role in keeping things up and running during the lockdown. Look at this summit. Look at this webinar that we have. It's technology that we're using. But for all those lucky enough to be so-called knowledge workers, technology has enabled us to keep doing our job with minimum disruption. You can ask any of our customers. In a matter of 2 weeks, we had almost 15,000 people that work for Softtek. They moved to their houses and they work from there. And I have to say, and you can ask any of our clients, no disruption whatsoever. We have email, we have Zoom, WebEx, Teams, and we have cloud computing to keep us up and running. But also other industries, all of them very leveraging technology, because even when you think about the restaurant industry, and they were certainly severely impacted, they start offering platforms for delivery, Uber Eats or Seamless. Without this kind of platforms, the blow could have been devastating for almost all of them. But look at education. Look at any industry. Certainly, e-commerce. I would say that it's the one that has evolved the most. The different. I mean, at every level. If there were some concerns about e-commerce lately, we all embrace e-commerce as the only way to stay in touch in a certain way to get all the things that we need. So in the past, sometimes we might have had people concerned probably about e-commerce. Not anymore. They are absolutely one of the champions in this thing. But then look at hospitals. When you want to find hospitals in which there's still availability, almost in every single industry, technology has played an incredible role. When I look at my granddaughters, I have 2 granddaughters, remember, they are also enjoying all the things that today are available through technology. And it's either on-demand videos or games or those kind of things that show you that how things are evolving in every aspect of our world, socially, educationally, professional. Every area of an industry is impacted.
So you're supporting clients around the world because you're a global company. And how are you managing that from your home in Monterrey?
Oh, well, from many different homes. It's not just me. I have to be very grateful to most of our people, to all our people that kept the kind of productivity, not disrupting the business, but also we have had, I mean, the productivity that we're seeing is so much higher than what we had. So to your point, again, we're very privileged because we can offer the services that we provide. They can be done remotely. You can be in New York, you can be in Argentina, in Mexico, in Florida, or in Spain, or in India. So that model, we're very, very familiar with that. And you know that we launched many years ago the Nearshoring concept that is working remotely. At this moment, it's the same if we're doing it from home that we're doing it from one of the delivery center. But to your point, so one is not the disruption, but also we have to support our clients in the challenges that they are facing. So if we were supporting, let's think about this cinema chain, that the way that they have to approach their clients is different. If you look at banks, obviously the challenges that they are also facing are different. So it's not just supporting them remotely, but adapting to different consumption patterns sometimes that they want to look at if they are from retail, restaurant, whatever, to understand much better their own customers. So there are different ways, but the most important one it's really to work with them very closely in understanding their challenges and making sure that they can also leverage technology in order to do that.
So we've seen many times in many years in Latin America that events have caused countries and people in Latin America to leapfrog. The pandemic's accelerated technology and digital transformation globally. But in Latin America, especially, I see things like e-commerce and digital payments just exploding. Tell us your view. What are the challenges and opportunities in Latin America?
Well, you're right. And it is true. Sometimes Latin America has been probably not lagging from that kind of embracing really the digital transformation. But today, in a way, like you mentioned, they have been forced, or if you want to say incentivized, to move faster. You mentioned e-commerce. Today, people in Latin America, with some exceptions, we all are very concerned. And the only way of doing and managing, it's really leveraging that. But probably for me, something that was really impressive, I never expected that our public schools were ready to keep on offering classes. It was incredible how soon they were able to open spaces and to be able to offer to those students from public schools to be able to keep on taking classes. But it is interesting because they are moving faster out of need. It is because they needed it in order to be there. So even though in the past they might have been lagging behind, today I do believe that you see, like you mentioned, not just the typical companies that you know about, but companies that have reason to take advantage or to take that opportunity that are there in many different ways. Think about the COVID. There are companies, certainly Softtek has done that have developed applications as to helping companies to get back to their facilities once they are ready. So you have companies that are focused on that, companies that are really focusing on making products from different small shops. So they develop certain platforms to offer that. If you look at Mercado Libre, not just the Amazon, the typical, right? So I do believe that this is a great opportunity for America, because it's understanding or making sure that there is a huge opportunity when you leverage technology. And today is not convincing them, it's showing them that it's needed, which is much better, right?
So it's shown the advantages, and it's allowed e-commerce and digital technology, the digital economy to explode, but it's also exposed the digital gap. And what should the private and public sector be doing to kind of bridge that and to, give technology? I mean, if young children, you see this, I bet you your grandchildren are amazing in technology, but they're privileged. So what should everyone be doing?
No, but it's true. You're right. I cannot deny that the digital gap can either increase or probably we can be able to close that gap. And yes, there are things that we have to do from a private sector, but there are many that have to be done from the public sector. I mentioned one that I was really, really surprised. I mentioned education. I never expected that. I really didn't expect that they were as ready as they were. So the children of one of that has me, one of the housekeeper that I have, their children were able to keep taking their classes in this public school. But if you ask them about their communities, like you just mentioned, they are not as privileged as they are. So one thing is, as a private sector, we have to understand that we're part of that solution and make sure the kind of things that we can offer them. For example, in our case, we support some small and medium companies with a platform to do just what I described. We call it Click to Sync, and we offer that platform for free because we said if we don't do this, those small shops will close. They don't have the means or resources to do this. But you can go to communities and see the way that you can help them to have access to even telemedicine, things like that. But the public sector has also, it's important, and I think they are doing that, not as fast as we would like, to understand the kind of services that they can provide if things are ready and they leverage technology the way they are. For many years, and you know this, in countries like Latin America, they don't have that access. You might have all the services that you want, you might, but if in communities they don't have access to internet, it is difficult. That gap that you mentioned is going to be even more huge than the way it is today. So I think from the public sector, they have to address this and understand that they have to make this accessible to them. And by accessible, meaning not just to build whatever infrastructure is needed, but to make it accessible from an economic point of view. Because otherwise we'll see, again, kids that are today being able to take classes in this online classes, and you will see, I don't know, all those communities that don't have access, and they will be back behind. So it's the private sector, but also the public sector with different policies. I was surprised, for example, and it's not necessarily digital gap, but it will have an impact. I'm sure you heard about this that Harvard and MIT are suing the government because they're trying to cancel.
Yes,
students. In this case, it's different. But also, why would you close that opportunity for those students that were, and it's different, they are privileged also. But what I mean is, if we don't understand that the world is moving towards that, you cannot build walls or whatever just because we're not physically there. We have to understand the amazing, the privilege that we have once we understand what technology means in this world, for this world.
I don't want to go into Harvard and MIT because I think it's outrageous, because one of the great things of the United States has always been our open borders for education.
Absolutely.
And young people from around the world want to take and participate in some of our wonderful universities. So this makes no sense.
No sense whatsoever. No sense. It's incredible. And we mentioned Harvard or MIT, but imagine all those universities, because as you said, when you have the opportunity to be exposed or to be able to interact with people all over the world, that program is even much better. It's not just what you get from the teachers, it's all that kind of exposure. It's incredible. It's really
and friendships are made for life. And those friendships come back and many times lead to opportunities and relationships that help countries and help businesses, and it's just tragic. But that's a whole other conversation.
It is tragic, and I hope it can be solved or addressed in a certain way.
So Softtek has been amazing. You've been a pioneer in nearshoring in the Americas. And do you think that this is a real opportunity for countries like Mexico to move jobs to Latin America?
Oh, absolutely. And you know this, when we launched the nearshore concept, it was just related to IT services. And the value proposition behind that, it's all the things that you can tackle by being near, by being close. But today, it can be applied not just to IT services. I'm always amazed, and I like whenever I hear that they are nearshoring their supply chain. They understand all the benefits that are behind being close. And it's not just the pandemic. Certainly, we have concerns about those things, that you have your supply chain so far away. In the case of Mexico, this new agreement will also help addresses things that probably were not necessarily the way we expected. But yes, we have always been pushing how important it is to be near shore. And today it's not just IT, but we have to take advantage of the opportunity. We
Absolutely.
do understand that it's not just being close or being near, going back to policies, going back to the kind of incentives, going back to whatever the governments are doing to take advantage of that, really take advantage. It's not just that the work is going to come. There are things that have to be ready and that we have to offer, not just it is convenient, I'm here. It is so many other things in order to do that, but it's not just IT services. Today, I'm sure you heard that, it's nearshoring supply chain.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest opportunities is supply chain.
It is.
So we talked about you're working from home. Your entire workforce is working around the world from their homes or wherever. What's it going to look like? Are people going to stay home? You're going to open your office space again?
I'm not going to stay home, but I'm going to. If I'm going to take what I would like, you know this. I travel. I used to travel for 20 years or 25 years every single week. I never complained because I thought it was part of my work, and I thought that was needed. I had to. This first month of this year, I was in China before all the things that are happening, the third week of January. Then I went to Brazil, and then to India, and then to the US.
All the hot spots.
And I thought it was needed. There was no way to convince me that it was not needed. I really thought that was the only way to do my job. But to your point, things are going to change. Whatever we say today, let me say something also. We can imagine whatever we want, and no one can question that, because we still don't know what's going to happen, how the world is going to look. But at least to your point, first of all, technology is here to stay, and we'll see technology in every area. That is absolutely true. But if we consider work, and we consider working from home, how can you tell a young mom that has 2 kids that they have to be at the office because there's no way they can do their job from home? They have shown that we can do this. So work will absolutely change. Jobs will absolutely, but education also, again, we mentioned the way that we socialize will also change. The way we interact will change. So we can imagine all the crazy things that we want, Susan, and all of them can happen. What it is true, and without a doubt, is that everything would be impacted or leveraged or whatever you want to call it by technology. I have no doubt. Work, education, everything, technology will play a very important role in this. So, you know what? Something that I was thinking this morning, as a matter of fact, in the past, whatever number of years, 5, 6, you know, those, at least my daughters, and a lot of people say they were no longer looking at buying things. They were more about experiences. I don't know if your daughter is like that. They said they were not necessarily looking at getting their car or things like that. They were more about getting experiences. And I think that's the reason why tourism or travel was the way that it was, right? And but today, when you're so concerned about traveling, how are you going to be able to get those kind of experiences, going to this amazing restaurant or traveling to Asia?
Absolutely.
That's probably the only thing that for me, it's difficult to imagine. If we're so into experiences, into having those experiences much more than getting new things, how are we going to be able to have experiences?
My daughter, my 30-year-old daughter and her fiance have been quarantining with us, and that's what they miss. They miss the traveling, not for business, but for pleasure. And to see their friends that they made at graduate school around the world and having their friends come visit them. That's what they miss. Not going to the office because they can manage their workflow from here.
But experiences is not something that everything I can imagine, even socializing to a certain degree, you can do that. But having those kind of experiences, I don't see it. Because I do this with my daughter a lot, but I see a lot of people. We will miss that. I cannot think the way we're going to do it in the future.
So we started talking about women, and let's talk some more about women. I mean, you are considered one of the Forbes Mexico's most 100, powerful women in Mexico. I already said that the Consejo Mexicano de Negocios had to change its name because of you. And we've talked about children and grandchildren. Women, have taken on such a leadership role during the pandemic, and they've had to juggle so many things because now they're home. So in some cases, they have to supervise homeschooling of children. They have to continue to do their jobs. They have a whole other level of leadership, of what and requirements. So what do you see? What are the key leadership traits that you think that women bring to the table, particularly in these times of crisis?
I absolutely would say that is empathy. And when there's a crisis, you need that kind of empathy. You have to understand all the things that are involved in this crisis. Take a look at COVID. It's all the situation. There are so many people dying. It can be your friend, your uncle, your daughter, your neighbor. So one thing, it's again the challenge that governments are facing to control that. But then that's the suffering of that. And then you see businesses closing and you see a lot of people unemployed. So if you don't have that, if you cannot show that empathy, it's so difficult to address or show that kind of leadership. And we're 2 women, so no one's going to complain unless during the question they will say that. And I do believe that we women can show that so much better. That's one thing. The other one is how to embrace reality. Even though they say that we like to dream about your dreams or whatever you might think or have your dreams, we address or we embrace reality much better in order, again, to show that empathy. This is serious, and we have to address that, but we can do it with empathy. So it's reality, is embracing reality, but it's also showing empathy. You mentioned women at home. And you're right, when they are home and they are working and they are supporting the classes that they are taking, but it's also their 2-year kid that is, mom, what can I do? What can I do? So it's also that kind of challenge. And they have to be able to show them that they are very, very important to them, but also that they can, again, combine both roles. But to answer your question, I would say embracing reality and absolutely empathy. Empathy, from my perspective, it's the most important part during a crisis, certainly during this crisis, and understanding the whole picture. It's not just one. If you take a look at Angela Merkel or the Prime Minister in New Zealand, it is incredible, Susan. You cannot the way they have done it. I mean, I sometimes look at Trudeau. Trudeau is doing a good job. I mean, he shows that kind of empathy, but nothing compared to those other two women that are
absolutely
really an example. And it's showing that kind of thing, that they understand illness, that they understand uncertainty, they understand the fear that they have. They are able to look at the whole picture and address every single issues. Multitasking. I don't know if you heard this, and I also say this in different, sometimes when they invite me to give this, and probably you agree with me, we're more prepared for that multitasking. Sometimes during the morning, and years ago, not necessarily now, you're, I don't know, in the morning kitchen, making breakfast for your kids, doing their lunch boxes, probably taking a call and understand what's going to happen. And you ask your husband, how do you like your eggs? And he's also in another call and he's saying, don't ask me, I'm in a call. So sometimes, and there are exceptions, but they can manage just one single task. And you're cooking and you're making lunch boxes and taking calls. And also asking if he wants to have eggs scrambled. Gracie, how do you like it? And they cannot do that. So multitasking, you're right, Susan, it's also very important.
So I have one more question about that. I'm going to come back to another leadership question at the end. But tell me, do you think Mexican culture, because men and women are working from home, and therefore you have different balances of who does what to whom, is Mexican culture, is this going to change Mexican culture a bit?
It might change a little bit. When you talk about culture, it involves we have millions of people in Mexico, and unfortunately, the past few months, when they are different, obviously the different kind of families, but some of them live in very small houses and with 5 kids, and there's the husband and the wife, and for them it has been very difficult to go through this. And you have seen in some cases, Susan, violence increase.
Yes.
Yeah, in some cases, and it's related to probably spending so much time in a very small space. But then you see other people really going to your point, saying, both working. I'm going to tell you about one friend. She has never worked. She always complained in the past about her husband, but she's so afraid of COVID that he has been secluded at home for 4 months. Not even her daughters, her kids, no housekeeper, nothing, just the 2 of them. And I was surprised. And if you knew him, he will never look at the kitchen. Forget it, never ever. But now, incredible, he does the laundry, he cooks, and no complaints whatsoever. So I think we'll see both things. I cannot deny our culture it's been with us for so many years. It's difficult to change, but there are circumstances that probably will help in that transition. And probably in other areas we might still see things like violence sometimes. Right.
So before I open it up for questions, I couldn't end this without asking your views on COVID and the impact of the pandemic in Mexico, and particularly on the private sector. And, how do you see the recovery? I mean, it hasn't really bottomed out yet, but.
No, but it will be. You know that last year was difficult. And the statistics, I don't have to, even to you, but we have not grown in the past 18 months. So when this pandemic arrived, we were already in bad shape. If I want to come in a certain way, we were in bad shape. And we have already seen things. In fact, you know how in Mexico, there are so, I would say not even businesses, you know that the kind of informal shops that you see here, and there are millions of people involved in those kind of jobs. So you might look at the Social Security and they might give you whatever number of people unemployed, but then you look at this other informal sector and it's even worse. We know that there are thousands of businesses already closed. You have seen also, like in the US, airlines was expected, right? Airlines were expected, but we have seen those kind of small businesses already closing. It's going to take I think it's going to take a few years to get back on track and still work. I believe it's going to be difficult. To your point, Susan, there's no way to deny that. Because when this pandemic arrived, we were already in bad shape. It is true. It is true. And we have to work also. We mentioned collaboration. I think it's our point. And it is a time in which we better make sure find ways to work and find ways together. It's not by working private sector and public sector. It's really finding ways on how to support the other businesses and how to support communities. It is the only way if we can change the situation and the track in which we are moving right now.
So with that, let's go to some questions. And our first question is from Martín Barrios from B of A. Martín, please unmute your microphone and let's go.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Blanca. Always amazing to hear from you. You are an amazing role model for any Mexican.
Thank you.
The leapfrog that you have taken from where you were coming, how you transform your company, Softtek, and how far you have reached. It's just amazing. So it's always an honor to listen to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Basically, I think Susan raised so many good questions, but I have one that comes around. You have a special drive. You have a different DNA, definitely, and that's undoubtedly. I want to know a little bit about that. What do you think that makes you such a great leader, that you don't stop for a no? You're always fighting and pushing and going always the extra mile, and you're doing the same with your team. What advice would you give us? And I'm sure you're giving it to your daughters, and I'm sure you're giving it to your daughters and your granddaughters. What is that advice that you can share with us around the success that you have had?
No, first of all, thank you so much for your comments. It's like I said, you warmed my heart. Thank you so much. And yes, many times they ask me about that because they say, you're always so energetic and you're always so positive. But to your point, I truly believe that I don't like a no for an answer. I like to say, I always mention self-determination. When you have something that you want to achieve, once you make this statement and you open and say, this is what I want, there's no way you can escape what you said. Then you focus on that and not allowing anyone to say that is not possible. So one thing, it's really to feel very passionate about the kind of things that you do, not taking no for an answer. And you know something else that I like to say, there are always concerns, whatever you want to do, get married, start a new business, get into this new company, and you have two choices, and it's up to you to take either one of them. To focus on the advantages or the strengths that you have, or to spend or lose time thinking about the things that might not help in whatever you want to achieve. It takes you the same time. Focus on weaknesses and disadvantages, or focus and leveraging strengths and advantages. I like this. You mentioned my daughters. I remember when they were kids and they would start the first day of classes, they would come and ask me and complain about, obviously, the friends that were in the new classroom. And I normally say, if you want to complain about one of the kids in your classroom, you better give me first 3 names of people that you like in your classroom. So it was in a way incentivizing and pushing them to always look to the fact. I mean, I cannot deny there are weaknesses, disadvantages, But let's focus. It takes you the same effort. Focus on that. Never, ever take a no for an answer. Thank you. Thank you, Martin.
That's great advice. Thank you for the question, Martin. The second question is actually anonymous, and it is, can Latin American governments do more to help the underprivileged?
They can do. We can always do more. Not just the governments, we all can do more. The question will be, do we or do they understand that it's needed? It's not, do you want? It's, do you understand that it's needed, that is the difference? But that could also apply to all of us. I truly believe that if you make it, really an effort to evaluate what you're doing, we can all do much more. And to his or her point, yeah, governments can do much more. And the thing will be, how can we give them more information in order for them to understand that it's so much is needed for that. But also there are things that we can do. There are many things that we can do.
Thank you. We have a third anonymous question. Have you seen any particular technology from Latin America shine during this crisis?
Well, one, it's certainly this kind of communication. One thing, it's I cannot, and it's not just from Latin America. Look at Zoom. Have you seen their valuation? It's, if you add the valuation of all the airlines at the moment, United, American Airlines, Delta, all of them together are not worth as much as Zoom. So let me go back to that question. Technology is one, it's certainly being able to stay connected, right? To interact for all the reasons that we mentioned, either education, commerce, banking, all the things that are needed. That's certainly the one that has shined the most, much more than any other one. That is for sure. But I don't think it's not just related to Latin America. Almost everywhere, this kind of platforms are the ones that have made the huge difference. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we have another question from Vidal Garza. Vidal?
He's a good friend. So I hope, if it's the same Vidal that I hope, he's going to ask me a very easy question. Is Vidal my
No. Dear Blanca, ¿cómo estás? How are you doing?
Great, thank you, Vidal. How are you? Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much for always hearing you. It's always, your enthusiasm is contagious. So we always are happy to hear what you have to say. And my question is very simple. On with respect to the end, to the beginning of our new NAFTA or the USMCA today or these days, what is your perspective on that agreement and the impact that it could have towards our country and perhaps as a platform also for Latin America? What do you think about that?
Great question.
Yeah, having reached, the agreement was needed. It was something that was important. We could not stay in that, and certainly it's going to be approved or not approved. So having the agreement, it's good news. Let me start with that, and I think we all agree. Are there things that can be concerning? And I think they're public. We're all concerned about the labor regulation and the kind of things that can happen related to labor regulation. But there are others that have been addressed and are important. IP, for example, right? They're important. The trade also, the agreement evolved also. Again, look at 30 years ago, the automotive industry. Remember when we thought about cars the way they were and when they thought about the supply chain, and the things that we're considering that agreement, it's thinking that, remember that car will go and pass the border so many times. But look at a Tesla today. A Tesla, it's a computer. So there's no way they're going to come here. So also the other thing that I would emphasize about the agreement, it is more aligned to the new reality. So it does address certain things. And but I'll go back to one of the, I think we mentioned this, the agreement was needed. It's good news that it's already approved, but it's not enough. If we don't align all the other things that are important in order to attract that investment, it's not going to be enough, and we don't want to lose that opportunity. I think we mentioned also China, and this is a huge opportunity for Latin America, certainly for Mexico. So it's I think it's good news. There are things that we might not like the way we like it, but today we're facing, or we have this amazing opportunity that we should we should be able, and we should understand that this opportunity can go away, or we can make it an amazing opportunity with everything else.
So I have another anonymous question. These people that are afraid to ask questions.
Why anonymous? If they asked about my weight, I might understand why it's anonymous. They were going to question, Susan, probably why we said that we women have that empathy and some men don't necessarily have it. I could understand that. But I don't know why anonymous. But go ahead.
I don't know why either, because I think these are all amazing questions. And so you should, people should ask them. So can you share one or two things that have surpassed your expectations during the pandemic, things that you were not expecting?
Well, that I will enjoy being home. Does that count? No,
yes.
It counts. I thought that it was going to be so difficult to keep that social distancing, and it is difficult. It is difficult. But I'm certainly impressed at how we have learned to probably manage this in the best way that it's possible. I don't know if you expected this, but if 4 months ago they will tell me that I was going to be 4 months at home, not going out for whatever reason, I could never thought that this was going to be possible. And I think it's not just me. I see that this is happening, that we have, in a way, understood that this is possible. And again, in every area, all the things that we mentioned, that is one thing. The other one is how we have been able to work together to address all the challenges that we're facing. I'm going to talk about Mexico and look at the way that the private sector is working to support hospitals, to bring medicines or equipment, to work with different communities. I am surprised. I mean, we should have expected, but not in this way. The way that we can show that we can work together and understand what is needed, not thinking about any kind of politics, not thinking about where you're coming from or not coming from. So the other one will be how important it is, this collaboration and working together, understanding that is the best way. I mean, there are other things that are important. Absolutely. I would like to say that I cannot understand why the cases keep on increasing and they have not been able to control that. The two things that for me, it's the resilience that we have shown. Resilience to adapt to whatever it presents. I think today that's the most important ability that you need. Agility, resilience, and that surprised me, even if I take it at this level. Working from home or adapting to all the things that these new challenges, the challenges that we're facing. And the other one, it's looking at the kind of collaboration that we're seeing and how much people want to help. I mean, there are exceptions, but people do want to help. Others do want to help and say, well, I do have the privilege of keeping my job, but you are an employee, you're my neighbor, and you might need whatever. Let me help you. Let me help you. Or companies really making donations, and I'm sure you have heard about this, to probably open hospitals in parking lots to offer services to people that might not be able to go to private hospitals. That's also something that I like to emphasize, because even though we wish we had it today, I have to say that I never expected that it would be to this level as it is today.
So we have a question now from Moises Vidal. Moises?
Yes. Can you hear me well?
Perfectly.
Can.
Perfect. Thank you. Blanca, echo Martin comments, okay? So I'm Mexican living here in the US, in Miami for a long time. So thank you for your participation. My question is about blockchain. What is your opinion about it? Do you think blockchain is going to be really a change in the market from a technology point of view, or is just a fashion that many companies have adopted and maybe it's gonna be behind in a couple of years? What is your opinion about blockchain in general?
And most technologies do have an impact, and blockchain has been here for many years, and we all have expected that it was going to be probably the impact was going to be even much more than what we have seen. Every technology has an impact, and I cannot deny that. And I do believe that we will still see things about blockchain. But if you ask me about what are the kind of tools, technologies, platforms that will have a greater impact, I wouldn't say it's going to be blockchain. It's more about cybersecurity or artificial intelligence or all the things. I do believe that even though I would not deny to your point that it would have that it has had and it would still have an impact in the way that we do business and the way that other companies are using it. I do believe that there will be other technologies that will have a greater impact than blockchain. Artificial intelligence, from my perspective, it's incredible. It's probably the one that is going to impact it the most of the businesses, most of our lives, right?
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Another question from Isabel Santo Tomas. She has a question about Softtek itself. Isabel?
She's also a friend, so I hope a good question from Isabel.
Isabel? Isabel?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I wasn't sure which mute button. But anyway, thank you, Blanca. It's so wonderful to see you. And it'd be lovely to see you in Miami, but it's really nice to see you and have your time here. You know, I'm interested to hear how Softtek has responded to the current environment. I mean, at Morgan Stanley, it's, you know, we've invested so much in technology and we keep investing in technology. And these past 3 to 4 months, while they've been difficult, technology has really allowed us to get closer to our clients. And believe it or not, I mean, we are seeing a growth in our business because we are forced to speak. I mean, the firm is actually putting limits on us. We have to be 100% with everybody. And we've almost reached that limit and we've grown. So I assume Softtek has also seen a lot of demands. Have you seen a lot? Have you had to add more people? Where have you seen mostly your growth from the company?
Thanks again, and it's great. But I'd like much better to see you in Miami.
Me too.
And they invite Carlos Vives again, like last year. Absolutely, Carlos Vives in this kind of virtual meetings. It doesn't work, Susan. We will have to.
I can't wait to see you in person.
Yeah, but Isabel, to your point, and I completely agree. I think I mentioned. It has been impressive, first of all, that we can be much more productive. You mentioned your growth, and it will apply, I think, to many, many different industries. In our case, I think we have seen changes. For example, one of our most important clients is Southwest. I mean, it's very public. And like any other airlines, they have been highly impacted. And so, but we have to understand their situation and bring new proposals in order for them to be ready once the industry changes. And the same thing will apply probably to companies that they really want to understand much better customer trends, so they are looking more in analytics. And so depending on the industry, we support most of the industries, if not all of them. And each one of them, it's in a different situation, like you can expect, right? If it's hospitality, well, I cannot. I will not finish to explain how difficult their situation is, or airlines. But then you look at manufacturing, you look at again retailing, consumer goods, and they what they want is to understand much better their customers or to change the experience that they have. So we have seen growth in different areas, probably the same kind of customers that like Morgan Stanley and many others understand how important it is to invest in technology and the kind of things that they can get from technology. So our challenge is to show them precisely that, how it can have a huge impact in their growth. Not in our growth, in their growth, if we can bring value propositions for them and understanding their business and their customers. I'm sure the technology that you have allows you to see the kind of trends, the kind of interest that your clients have in order to reach that growth that you mentioned, right?
So Clarence Ho has 2 questions. Clarence?
Hello, hi. Thanks, Susan. Hi, Blanca. Nice to meet you.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly well.
Great. I just have two questions. One is with COVID. Has there been thoughts about a strategy on the area that you like to pivot into for Softtek? A lot more in because COVID presents a great opportunity. And second is, would there be a challenge that keeps you awake at night because of not being able to achieve that strategy?
Yeah. Well, the first one, if I understood the question correctly, let me think about COVID and the way and the things that have changed in order to get to a new normality. Let me think about the facilities. When you think about going back to facilities, we need and we'll face, how are we going to do it? For example, in our case, I don't know if you have heard this theory or the way that some companies from Israel are doing it, and we will change the way that we go back to the offices. We're thinking, for example, that we'll have to have some mixed model in which you go to work 4 days and then stay home 10, work from home 10 days, and we will change completely the spaces. So there's going to be, and I'm not sure if I understood the first question, but what I wanted to emphasize is, yes, COVID will have an impact, not just till it lasts, but in the future, it will keep on doing that. It will still, there are things that will not go back to that. Clarice, can you repeat the second question for me?
Yeah, my second question is in what you said, there will be a new normal, and things will not be the same. And as Softtek pivots into a new space to address the new normal, what is the thing that keeps you awake at night from not being able to achieve that?
Well, one thing for sure, it's we're a service company. So our most important asset, if not the only one, it's talent. And I always like to say that the society, the country, the company, that it's more successful in attracting the most brightest talent is the one that it's gonna make the difference. It's gonna be the one that is more successful. If I want to let me repeat myself. So when we were always very proud of our culture, and you managed to not just attract but to keep your talent when you're able to interact with them. So the kind of engagement that you build when you work together, it is impossible to replicate when you do it like we're doing it today. It's I mentioned at the beginning that for me it was important to travel every week. And one of the reasons for that is to get in touch with our people and to show them much more about our culture and how important they were for us. So what keeps me awake, I mean, among many other things, it's how to be able to keep that kind of engagement even at a distance. Even at a distance, because it can be, I don't know if you've heard, but Google, it's saying that no matter where you are, they'll offer you a job. If that's the way that things are going to be, then engagement or culture is not going to be part of this. It's not just going to be how much you pay me and I work for you, because there's no other kind of benefits that you get from working in one company or the other one. So one thing that is for me really, really challenging and concerns me and keeps me awake, how we're going to change that. If we don't have the opportunity of the space to interact more closely, how can we build that kind of engagement with our people?
Thanks for sharing that. It's insightful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clarence, by the way, is from Enterprise Singapore, but he lives in the United States.
Wow.
So we have more questions, but our time is ending, and I just want to ask you one last question. I'm going to usurp my role as the moderator.
Okay.
COVID-19 has created an opportunity. In a sense, it's the ultimate test of leadership, not just in the private sector leading a company, but also in the public sector. So do you have any recommendations for leaders of either the private sector or the public sector in Latin America at this time, at this moment where leadership, I think leaders are either showing leadership or they're really falling on their face to a certain degree?
I have to go back to when you ask about leadership, probably that question related to women, but I think it will always apply to any leader. First of all, again, embrace reality. We don't like to share those kind of news where we keep changing the numbers and statistics about the cases and the impact in the economy. So one thing is we have to embrace reality. Don't sugarcoat it. One thing is, but take a look at the whole picture. Understand what it's not just focus. And I understand it's difficult for leaders to say, but there's a huge impact in the economy, so we have to open businesses. But people are dying. So one thing is really embrace reality and taking a very detailed view at the whole picture. Again, show the empathy and the understanding. And there are going to be difficult decisions. I cannot deny that. But leaders have to take that. And in order for people to understand the decisions that you make, it's important that they see that you took into consideration all the aspects. That's why it's important to take the whole picture. And again, to show them empathy. Sometimes you have to have layoffs. Sometimes you don't like that. You don't want to do that. But if you can show them that you delay that until there was no other way of doing it, they might understand. So the other one is reality, embrace reality. The other one is taking a look at the whole picture in order to understand and define strategies. Don't sugarcoat this thing. People will know that. But you have to show the strength and the empathy, and in order to lead your team. For me, there's no other way than to show that yes, you understand how serious the situation is, that you do understand the different issues, but there are decisions that have to be made, and you have to make them with much empathy.
So, Blanca, it's 5:01. Sadly, our time is up. I want to thank you. This has been an amazing conversation. You have been insightful. You've been informative. And once again, your leadership qualities have just shown through to the entire audience. I want to thank you, but I also want to thank everyone who joined us today for our Bravo Leadership Conversation. We had so many more questions, and I hope that the next time we have a conversation with you, it will be in person.
Yes, please. With Carlos Vives. And with Carlos Vives. Don't forget about that, Susan.
Absolutely. And as much as I love and the transformation of the world, I think it's got to be balanced. Blanca, brava. And thank you for everything. And dear friend, and you were just spectacular as always.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank the audience and wish you health and happiness.
Likewise, and thank you. Yes, stay safe, please. Thank you, Susan. I'll see you soon.
I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for in Miami.
It was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.